Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again, and welcome to The Roads with Belle. Today is March 2nd, 2025, and this is episode 80 of The Roads Not Taken, which is a weekly series where we go over the news that was unreported, underreported, didn't get the coverage we felt it deserved, or we just found it interesting. And then we go over a few questions from y'all. Today is March 2nd, and it's the first day of National Consumer Protection Week. In related news, reporting is coming out that the Trump administration plans on firing the staff at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. On this date in 1944, Casablanca won its Academy Awards. Some fun trivia. The most quoted line of "Play it again, Sam" is not actually in the movie. He just says, "Play it, Sam." A memorable quote from the movie is, "It would take a miracle to get you out of Casablanca, and the Germans have outlawed miracles." A line that could certainly showcase the feeling of living under an authoritarian regime. And starting with foreign policy. Normally on this show, we just cover things that were underreported. But we have to mention yet again that Trump flew off the handle and undermined U.S. power worldwide by attacking Zelensky in the Oval Office. At that meeting, an unapproved person working for Russian state media gained access to the Oval Office. Trump failed to obtain his mineral deal, a deal that will likely go to European nations now. Hundreds of thousands protested in Greece, primarily over infrastructure concerns, specifically those related to a train crash. The number of people expected to be lost after U.S. aid cuts is 500,000, just from the cuts to the HIV program. Trump reportedly wants to shrink State Department, a move that foreign policy experts say will cause more U.S. wars and military operations. Austria shut out the winning far-right party by forming a coalition government without them. China is reportedly delighted by Trump undermining U.S. power and alienating Europe. In U.S. news, Texas officials are exceptionally quiet amid a massive measles outbreak that is spreading. House Republicans are starting to realize the cuts to health care they've demanded via the budget resolution they voted for are going to cause them electoral problems. Democrats are demanding that federal employees be reinstated. General Mattis and other former defense secretaries are calling on Congress to investigate Trump. The letter says, quote, "Mr. Trump's dismissals raise troubling questions about the administration's desire to politicize the military and to remove legal constraints on the president's power." In cultural news, the Pope's condition is said to be worsening. The deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife are surrounded by speculation and questions. Trump is recognizing English as the official language of the U.S. In science news, everybody needs to start paying closer attention to the weather, as Trump's firings reach NOAA and the National Weather Service. There's a high likelihood of disrupted forecasts. Trump is considering making it an official U.S. position that greenhouse gases aren't real. Well, at least that they aren't harmful. I know that sounds like a joke, but that's the reporting. In economic news, Citigroup accidentally credited a client $81 trillion. In other news, I've opened an account, just in case. Consumer spending in the United States fell for the first time in 2 years. As we talked about on the main channel, the economy absolutely cares about your feelings. If there is continued decline in consumer spending, it will lead to a recession. Trump's big international trade policy is to reduce our goods trade deficit. And there was a massive shift It's now the highest it's ever been. The reason for the massive increase in the trade deficit is probably going to end up being companies and people in the U.S. importing more to get the imports in ahead of Trump's tariffs. Realistically, that one should level out over time, unless, of course, consumer spending continues to decline. And if you missed it, Atlanta's Federal Reserve GDP Now tracker is suggesting that the GDP is contracting. Friday night, the estimate showed a negative 1.5%. Again, this is an estimate, but it's not a good sign. In Oddities, Trump is reportedly taking the documents seized by the FBI from him back to Florida. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm adding a quote of the week. I don't know if this will be a regular feature. The world is changing fast. In military, in diplomacy, in economics, in everything. And we must keep up, of course. And we need to meet as soon as possible to define the terms of peace and security guarantees. Our teams are already working productively with the U.S. on the economic agreement, which we hope to sign in Washington. And President Trump, we would really like to hear from you because all our people, all our families are very worried. Will there be support from America? Will America be the leader of the free world? President Zelensky, last month. On to the Q&A. My conservative uncle and I were arguing recently, which has become a regular thing. He said, "The way I look at taxes is I'm most likely going to have to pay them regardless. I reduce that as much as possible by living in Texas, where we don't have a state income tax, and our overall tax rate is low. However, if billionaires, business owners, have less expenses, then they can afford better benefits and pay for their employees, which gives me a better quality of life." I tried explaining to him that what he is describing is literally trickle-down economics. Can you write me a message back or make a video that I can use to help him understand that billionaires don't care about him? Charts, charts, and more charts. Showing him charts that show income inequality growing since the 1980s might help undercut this idea. If you want a series of charts for ready use on this, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities has an article called A Guide to Statistics on Historical Trends in Income Inequality. That has all the charts you need for this one. Help, pretty please. In very small words that a non-economist will understand, what's the best way for someone with an uncertain income to prepare for the crash? I'm working with a Texas community group and also a national group of clergy to come up with specific steps low and lower middle income folks can take to protect their families and not have to sell their cars or homes. What I saw in Fiji that worked during COVID was put in a garden, bee or animal husbandry, and establish a side hustle that was not selling food or clothes. It also helped to have a backup water system. A generator was good, but only if you had the funds to keep buying fuel. Solar is expensive and wasn't an option for the communities that hadn't already put it in place. All of these are good. If you have the skills and resources, this is great. A side hustle of some kind is also really helpful, especially if it's like a recession-proof industry, which is something that people are going to need regardless of the economic situation. And they're going to need it all the time, even when things are tight. And one of the best examples I can think of and that we had talked about was like auto repair. When economic times are difficult, people are not going to be buying new cars, which means they're going to need auto repair, and probably more than usual. So that's something, and it's a bonus if it's something that can be used to barter or build community networking with. Recently married guy with a beautiful wife and 1-year-old daughter. However, we noticed I don't really know how to be a good husband because my dad did not respect my mom very much. And I have copied some of that behavior without reflecting much. So my question is, how do I stop that, or how can I find some decent role models on marriage and respecting women? I hope that makes any sense. I'm asking you because you seem to have a very good marriage. So by writing this, you're obviously reflecting on the behavior. It appears that somewhere there was a discussion. So if you're reflecting on it, when you notice it happening, immediately correct the behavior. If it's something that you notice later, like you're doing something else and an incident from that morning comes to mind of, oh, that wasn't cool, make sure that you apologize and let your partner know you did notice it and you are working on it. That usually lets your partner know that you're trying and can help them be more patient with the situation. If you're reflecting on it, you want to correct it. And over time, if you continue these things, it'll break the cycle on its own. Focus on the things that you're very aware of or that she has specifically pointed out. As far as role models, I'm not really sure because the ready-made role models, it's scripted, and that's not life. It's not marriage. So continue to focus and correct the behavior at the time, or even later if you reflect on it, apologize and let the person know it's an ongoing thing, and eventually it will work out. And when you have little ones, that's often hard too because your attention goes different ways. But, asking and acknowledging it is a huge step. So that looks like it. A little more information and a little more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.